Yeah, as it stands right now, obviously outside of the top four, so they've got some work to do in these next two rounds. But let's move on to talk about a team that definitely have a lot more work to do. Liverpool with another loss, this time coming to Leeds, Janusz, their first home loss in the Premier League in 30 matches. Is this a new low in the bad recent run, and are they in crisis?
Well, by their standards, you have to say they are. And some of it, there's very little you can do about because of injuries. But as we've said, we've seen those injuries before. I mean, it wasn't all that long ago that Jurgen Klopp was telling us how great, he is in terms of depth, in terms of center backs. We all knew that, right? Four very good center backs. But I look back 2-3 years ago when they were all injured, it wasn't all that great, right? And I look at it now, and he's got players that he can't count on. That's why, short of saying that there needs to be a revolution, there needs to be a reset. He needs new players. He needs to react immediately, I think. When I say that, obviously some of these players will come back. The season will shake itself out, and I think I continue to believe when he starts getting player back, they'll go on a run, and they'll be in a massive fight for top four, right? But I think you almost have to start looking ahead and say, let us not become the Manchester United and Arsenal of the last decade. Let's react now, because you've got to move some of these players on. The entire midfield, I mean, look, Fabinho, we've seen, I mean, massive drop off. Is there a chance for him to recover? Yes, if that midfield is at their best, hungry, young, and capable of running up and down every 3 days. And that's always been an issue. Now there's an issue going forward because of massive injuries. But I wouldn't touch that too much because I think ultimately, if he gets the midfield right, I think the Luis Diaz and Mo Salahs of the world and Diogo Jota when he comes back, that's plenty. That's good enough to get results consistently, right? But in the back, he's got to change that. He's talking about depth. I'm talking what depth? These players never play. I mean, Konate, we always knew in his days at Leipzig, he's always injured. So is Joel Matip, always injured. Joe Gomez, my goodness, I know he's young, but how many mistakes is that now? I mean, 3, 4, 5 critical mistakes already. And you look at Van Dijk, who's below form, but obviously I think he stays and he's going to get back. So I think he's got to make massive decisions already in January, slowly, maybe get a player in, and then in the summer, he's got to restart the new cycle, because this is exactly what that is. This is not magically going to fix itself. I think you need players that are looking forward to win more trophies, and not players that are, off form and in with the physio day in and day out.
So given those injury issues in the defense that you just highlighted, given the fact that it's just not going right for Joe Gomez at the moment, and to be fair, Virgil van Dijk, he even had Jurgen Klopp say after this game, you cannot defend like that on the second goal. Obviously, he was called out somewhat too. Do they need a new centre back?
I absolutely think I did say it, but I absolutely think that they need to look at it. Do they put trust in players that could be good if they play, which we haven't seen in 2 or 3 years. I mean, look at Joel Matip. Plays a game or two, out. Konate plays a game or 2 or 3, out, right? And Joe Gomez, we're not sure about. I absolutely think that they need another one. There's not enough there. Look at Manchester City, right? I mean, they have 4 or 5 world-class center backs. Now, we all know Jurgen Klopp is not going to be allowed to spend that sort of money and get those players in, but that doesn't mean that you have to idly just stand by and says, well, we don't have the money. How do we do it? Remember what happened with Coutinho, right? And, I was talking about that midfield, and I didn't even mention in that midfield, Jordan Henderson, that certainly passed his best. He'll give you 2 or 3 great games, but that's not enough. Every three days, you have to be at your best, right? What about, I'm thinking like Thiago Alcantara, who's one of my favorite players, but it almost seems like he's a luxury player right now. It's not a player that's kind of going to run that midfield as well. So I wonder, he may have to sell somebody. I look at Mo Salah, and sacrilegious to say that, but I remember what happened when Coutinho left, right? That's when you got Van Dijk. That's when you got a lot of players, and that's what Liverpool has to do. So he's going to have to sit down and think about, okay, what's next for next 2 or 3 years? 3 years. Are we going to be going through this season like this and hope that everybody's healthy? Yeah, 50-50 chance there. Possible. Highly unlikely, though.
I was going to keep this question to the end, but seeing as though you've mentioned Mo Salah, do you think that if Klopp could do it all over again and Liverpool could do it all over again, they would keep Sadio Mane as opposed to Mo Salah?
I think they've tried. You know, he was underpaid in comparison, and I suppose if they threw an incredible amount of money at him, maybe it would have changed his mind. But from everything that I understand, he just wanted a new challenge. You know, maybe Sadio Mane was one of those that foresaw what was coming. He knew that there's, you know, that's everything you could have gotten out of that team, and they've gotten a lot. You know, it sounds pretty negative here about Liverpool, but let's think about that. I mean, every trophy just about possible, right? Under Jurgen Klopp. So, yeah, I can think of one, you know, that they haven't won, and I think Sadio Mane knew to some degree, if he admits to that or not, that he just wanted a different challenge, that with this challenge, there's going to be struggle. So I'm trying to get into his head. I don't know it, but I think that, you know, Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp are not silly enough not to want Sadio Mane, but, you know, it was probably, he just wanted to go elsewhere.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis, and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.